Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this open class from the screen to the pitch. I know you are probably watching from different locations in the world, different time zones. So we welcome you to this session. And first and foremost, what I wanted to do is to introduce the amazing speakers that we have today for the session. I'm going to do it in the order that they are next to me in my screen. On my right, I have Yannick Toelen. He's a professional footballer for KV Mechelen in Belgium, and he's going to give us amazing insights regarding or related to the point of view of a professional footballer. Thank you,
Hello,
Yannick, for
everybody.
being here. And then next to Yannick on the screen, we have Gelgerli, which is a video analyst for SC Cambuur in the Netherlands. Gelgerli, how are you?
Hi guys, nice to be on the call. I'm doing fine, thanks. Really looking forward to this masterclass.
Very nice to have you on the call. And then below me on the screen, we have Kypros. Kypros works for Tottenham Forest as a recruitment ID and recruitment coordinator. So welcome, Kypros, to the session.
Hi, Pablo. Hello, everyone. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you for being here. And then last but not least, we have Andres Paz, who is very close to me in location here in Spain. He works as an analyst for Elche, CF, in La Liga Hypervention in Spain. Andres, ¿cómo estás?
Hi, Pablo. Thank you for having me. Hi, everybody.
Nice to have you all. And basically, just for a little bit of housekeeping for everyone watching out there, today's session is going to be about us creating like a conversation with some questions I'll be throwing to the speakers regarding exactly that, from the screen to the pitch, the influence of data in every aspect of a football club, but from the point of view of the game. We're not going to get into ticketing, fan engagement, any of that. We're going to get into academies, into performance, into position analysis, into many different areas of the influence of data nowadays in professional football. And you guys are going to be the ones giving us anecdotes, stories, and interesting insights from you. And housekeeping wise, we'll keep the talk open for however it goes. I reckon it won't be more than an hour at most. And then after that, for everyone watching, we'll open for a Q&A session. So anyone watching, feel free to write your questions on the chat. I think you guys watching on a live YouTube link, you can ask your questions on the chat. And that way we can read them, we can introduce the questions to the screen, and we can all answer them and get your questions answered. So without further ado, I wanted to start with understanding a little bit of the culture of data in the clubs you guys are part of, because nowadays I think we all agree probably that data is so important that if a club looks away from data, it's actually missing a lot. Like clubs are embracing it, the departments of data scouting are getting bigger, and the influence on what footballers do on a daily basis in training ground, but also on the games, is being influenced by data more and more. So I would like to get to know more about the culture of data in your clubs in terms of, are there a lot of people that are still old-fashioned, not really believing what you guys are doing, and you're having to prove to them that what you're doing is actually very valuable? Is it the opposite, that the clubs are embracing it so much that you actually are considered one of the staff sitting or working close hand with the managers? Or from a footballer point of view, how much is it being introduced in the training ground, etc., etc.? So if you want, we can start this time. I'm going to be starting every question from a different one, so we'll have a moment to start. Kypros, can you give us a little bit of an insight? You being a Premier League team, which I think at the moment Premier League we consider it probably the top league in the world, a club that has won 2 Champions League in history. How do you guys embrace, and how is the culture of data in your club?
Yeah, so we're really focused. We're really big on using the data going forward. With the new sporting director coming in, Ross Wilson and Craig Mulholland, they're really big on utilizing data in every department, both in the first team and the academy. From the first team side, you have basically an analyst in every department doing work on the tactical side, on the recruitment side, on the physical side, and you now have a whole department dedicated on data. So you have a full-time data architect and a few PhD students doing their work on that side. we are now recruiting for a data insights analyst for the academy, which is going to focus on purely on the academy side, again, on the coaches, on recruitment, on physical data, everything into one and aligning it to what the first team do. But yeah, for me, it's really important because it's kind of a checkpoint on if what you're doing is right, is valid, is accurate, and if it's the right way to work going forward as well.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing that. Because it's very interesting not only to see how data is being used in terms of or how the club embraces it, but is the club embracing it from every single part of the puzzle, not from the academy moving forward, etc. No? So it's good to hear that. Andres, tell us more about Spain. Because we can be sometimes a bit stubborn in embracing new things. So how are things in Elche?
Well, I can say that we are yearly improving in this focus on data. I can talk to you from my point and my area, that is the first team coaching staff. I can say that we weekly use data to mainly know if the model that we use is being followed by match. So we have some dashboards that we can control some metrics to know that we keep our game as we want. For other side, I know that in the scouting area, they focus. They're like going in a mix between the traditional way and the data focus to make some decisions. For example, some in the physical performance of the players that they have in their list. So I think we're improving, and as you know, here in Spain, in the Liga Hypermotion, we are moving forward to make some decisions in driven by data, and some important steps that are made by La Liga focused in media coach, for example, that give us a lot of tools to use data in the clubs of La Liga. So I think that
actually, I was going to interrupt you there and say that that's a very interesting point you're raising, because I don't know you guys in your leagues, but I think a lot of the time what the actual competition is doing in terms of data, what data they're providing to clubs, can actually be very important in terms of bringing that culture in the club and utilizing that data. I think Spain is saying that through Media Coach, as you were saying, in La Liga. And I don't know if you guys in your competitions, you have like a data provider that provides a minimum amount of data, no? On a
yeah, but because it's in some ways pushing you to use data, they have a really good customer service that can stay in touch with you and can answer to you any question, help you to design dashboards, and you can ask the way you want to see the data. So in this way, for the clubs that are here in Spain, is really important to begin to start to use these tools that La Liga gave us.
Yeah. It's actually a good point. It's almost exactly forcing clubs to take advantage of that tool, to take advantage of data. No, I don't know if you guys in your competitions, you finding that as well, that you have a provider that is giving you so much to play with that you're just using it. No, obviously, I don't know if you keepers, for example, getting to being in the academy is probably different in that case, obviously. But I imagine for the first team that's the case, no?
Yeah, so I was going to say, I know the first team, so the Premier League uses Opta data. They're collaborating with Opta. We, as a club, have a partnership with StatsBomb to get the Premier League event data as well. So the physical data comes from Catapult. We were using Stats Pro, but we changed to Catapult. From myself, from the academy side, basically in recruitment, it's very manual loading onto the data sets. So
you pretty much do all the work.
basically, like populating the data sets on which fixtures we've attended, who the best players were from the other academies, how can we follow up on them. When we grade our players, we use an external scouting system, and there's a specific grading method to grade the players internally, which we then use to grade the external players as well. So then that acts as a kind of a comparison. So if our player is a 70 out of 100, for example, then we're looking for someone over 70 if we are to replace him as another kind of checkpoint. But I think the important thing is we need to keep in mind that nothing will really replace the traditional scouting. As good as the data becomes, it's still something that should be used secondary and not like as a primary focus. So yeah, it's just a more complete approach to everything.
That's very interesting, and I'll talk into. I want to get into scouting as well, because I've had a few conversations lately with a few clubs talking about this way of, okay, you can always utilize data, but what the eye is going to tell you, you cannot, not do that. You have to incorporate data if you want, but always with the human eye. But we'll talk into that later. But from you, Yannick and Gelgerli, is there any kind of like insight you can give us in terms of the actual culture, not only in your club, but in your competitions?
I think that that in our club it's evolving because in the beginning, when I was there 5 years ago, we had a sporting director who was not really for data. Now we have a new one, and we had also now a data analyst a year now, and he's delivering some good work. Only the thing I saw in the course that I followed is that the cooperation between data analysts and the technical staff is bigger in Spain and in other competitions than with us. We have just a video analyst who does the preparation of the games, and not so much information from above comes to the technical staff. So that's always very interesting to hear from bigger competitions that is the case there. But I don't think in Belgium really, maybe only the big clubs do that. So that's always really interesting to hear and to find out how that actually works, because with us it's not like that. We do it, the technical staff does it by himself. So that's already always very interesting to hear that in Spain or in England, there is a more tight connection between data analysts and the technical staff.
Yeah, that's interesting, because even from experience of, we have former students working in different clubs across the world, including Premier League, and it's true. Like, it depends a lot in the manager at the time. For example, we know now that with Aston Villa, Jose Rodriguez, one of the SAP data analysts, is one of our teachers as well, a former student. I know that the culture that Emery has brought to Aston Villa has made them feel more part of the technical staff, actually, and going to the training ground, sitting in the same tables, almost being part of it, as opposed to be those weird guys with the computers that have nothing to do with whatever else or whoever else is doing whatever. And that's very interesting to see that exactly in some countries that's being more embraced and normalized, as opposed to, for example, what you're saying in Belgium.
Yeah, I think it's like we are not used to it. Like, it's different. We use data just only for transfers, for the technical part, and then the physical part, but not always because we had a one class, and I remembered they were letting see how the opponent is playing, and I cannot imagine that one data analyst from us, not with our coach now, comes downstairs and say they play like this. I don't think our coach will accept that, because he see tactical the game very well. but we only use, I think, data for the physical part, and
Yeah.
maybe sometimes like how the opponent is more on the pitch, but that's it. Not like they're playing like this or like this. That is only for the technical stuff, not from above. That's
Yeah.
how we do it in Belgium. Is it
Yeah,
better?
yeah.
I don't know, because I don't know different than.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we actually, that's one of, I want to tap into that as well later with another question on what the focus is put on. But I want to hear from Gregory first and give us some insights on your club, the Netherlands, and the culture of data there.
Yeah, here in the Netherlands, as there in Belgium, we are like a development country for players, like a transition to bigger leagues like Premier League. So in our club, in our league, is more focused on the performance and the scouting data. But we are more likely to use it in the technical part of the game, or I do it in the match analysis, how the opponent is playing, which players are the weak points. Also, during the post-match analysis, we had a game plan during our game, and how we wanted to get there in a zone, and how successful was our game plan. So we use the data in these kind of aspects. And the Kipros mentioned that they have analysts in any youth teams. Yeah, here in the Netherlands, in the second league, we only have one video analyst, 2 performance coaches, and 2 full-time scouts. So it's a bit different here. But there are some volunteers and part-time data analysts who put the work in it. So it's a bit different league, but we try to keep it up. And that's why I also took this master's, because I think data and video analysis are a really good combination.
Absolutely. And I think, one of the key things is because my understanding, and guys, correct me if I'm wrong, you're there and you know more, but sometimes it's not necessarily the culture of the club or the competition of the country, as opposed to how the club with the budget they have, they actually put some budget into hiring more analysts, hiring more performance coach, and how they design those departments to embrace that, or more or less, because I've been in talk with top clubs in Europe, and I came across a top club, and they were the data department and the scouting department was made of one person only. So and obviously it's a lot. It's the load of work is massive, no? So obviously having, as you were saying earlier, different guys doing different things and kind of like dividing the work is key in order to the whole thing to work properly, no? So my next question goes on those lines, which was, let me read it properly here. What areas and what resources puts the club more focus on? Because you guys have been tapping into this. Some clubs might be having a strong focus on scouting and how scouting and using data for scouting can actually impact everything else, or more, as Gregory was saying now, opposition analysis, post-game analysis, etc., then performance analysis, or more analysis, I think, as Yannick was saying, related to physical, no? Like, okay, the performance, but also injury prevention, etc. So if you could give us a little bit of what areas do you think is being the focus is more on in your class when it comes to using data? Because I imagine that there are not that many resources and you don't have all the time in the world to actually be putting focus on everything at the same time. So what is the thing that tends to be more the focus in your class? Let's start now from the person who was last. Galgali.
Yeah, as I mentioned at Cover, we have the scouting department and the performance department use the data the most.
Yeah.
To recruit players, to get young players, and then train them 2-3 years and sell them with a good profit. And with this profit, we can just do this circle again and again. But as I mentioned, as a technical part, we try to use more and more data. So from this season on, we use Impact, which is a data provider, and they are using also packing data, which means that they also track the ball, which position of the pitch is, so between which lines, which zone of the game. So that's a really good also to analyze the match afterwards in this aspect, because we also have a game plan, as I also mentioned. So we want to get in different zones of the pitch, in the assist zone, zone 14, also between the lines, and that this aspect is good to use this kind of data. And of course, also for the player analysis post-match with the duels, the distance covered is more for the physical data. So we try to cover as much as possible with data, but yeah, as I said, also with dimension, with the people we have, so not always easy to cover everything.
Absolutely. But also you mentioned something before as well, no, on how important it is the nature of the club and the competition, because you said, like, in the Netherlands, our competition is more like a transition competition for many players to move on to the top leagues. Then I guess the way of doing a scouting, for example, changes a lot, because you need to look into, acquire players that are fairly good in terms of the price you can acquire them from, develop those players and then sell them for a better price, etc. No? So I think it changes a bit of the culture. Yannick, tell us.
Can I add one
Yeah,
more
of course,
thing for the scouting? For example, nowadays, like a left-footed center defender who can really good pass the ball is a really good key for the good clubs. So our key in scouting was this kind of players, and we find a really good one. And I think in 2 years he can make a next step in the Bundesliga. So this small aspect, which can lead to the Netherlands is the club from the Bundesliga is recruiting players from, for example, or England. So what kind of players are these competitions needed? So that's how we try to scout players.
What is the demand in those competitions? No,
Yes.
That's interesting, because I guess it's a hard call. No, okay, we're gonna recruit players looking into what the squad we have is, what are the needs of our squad, but also with the view put into exactly what the demand of these competitions, the Bundesliga and the Premier League is, and then try to also bring players that fit with that demand. No? So it's a tricky.
And of course, as you mentioned, they have to also fit our game plan in our team. So that's the first thing. But from the longer term of thinking, it's how we can sell them.
Amazing. No, thank you for sharing that, because it's very interesting, your point of view with that. No, Yannick, now you've been a footballer. One of the things I wanted to ask you actually was, as a football player, and this goes along with the question that I asked before, do you see that data in the last 5 years that you were mentioning before has actually gone down to the point that you are using, or your technical staff is telling you data and using data in your performance, in your training for your games, etc.?
I think I see it more now in prevention and in the medical department, like for prepping and seeing how players are feeling before the training, and also doing tests so they can see by certain things that we are fit enough to train or that we can perform. Yeah, sorry guys, it's my daughter.
The future footballer said that.
So in that last 5 years, that was a big thing now for our club to go there to see that players are fit, getting better. That we use, I think, Nordic boards, optimal, and for the physical thing, it's the one with the bands with the brass. But I've catapult that we also work with.
Like GPS tracking.
So that has changed a lot in the last 5 years. So that's the main thing, and I think also in the individual development, like taking certain seconds of the game and show there and what the options are. That was like 10 years ago when I was younger. That was not, you cannot imagine that if somebody says this to you 10 years ago, you think people are crazy, but now it's just very normal. After every post game, after the game, it's only images, so many percent. The striker shoots there. When he comes in this position, he can shoot there more often. So you take it all with you in the game, and that's a big difference. Also for me that helped a lot because you can anticipate on certain moments in the game that could help your team and your club.
That's amazing, no? Because every little thing can actually give you a gain, no? And exactly an advantage. Knowing and I imagine, and I'm gonna ask you this after though, but penalty shooting, for example, you being a goalkeeper, how important it is to have data from opponents and the shooters and stuff like that, no?
Yeah, because before every game, you sit down with the goalkeeper coach, and then always, what if we have a penalty? Then he take out a Y scout, and there are all the penalties where they shoot, where they miss, this percentage on that side, this percentage on this side. So yeah, then you can decide together. There's always it can always change, but
Of
then you
course,
can
yeah.
speak together like, okay, this day we're gonna take that side because we have the feeling it's going to be this, and that helps a lot because I can win you 3 points, and
You
that's a
can
lot. All
you can hide anything now as a footballer. I'm thinking if I was
No.
a penalty shooter, I'll try to shoot it completely different every time just to mess up with
Yeah.
them.
Yes.
Amazing. All right, Andres, tell us more about how Elche what Elche puts the focus more on, no? Like in terms of like using the data. Because you are a first team analyst, obviously you can give us insights on that as well. But if you see that academy is starting to work with data, etc.
Well, I think that like in most of the clubs, most of the resources and the data focus is on scouting, because as everybody knows, is where the money is and where the important things, the most important things happens. So I think that in our club, that's the main focus. But also I want to highlight that, for example, in physical metrics, there is an important investment to understand the loads, as Yannick was saying, to understand the well-being of the players, and also to control and to be as much as possible clear to understand the player. So, for example, after every game, we share with the players some metrics, some physical metrics today, to understand how demanding was the game for them and how they feel about the game, so they can begin to understand their bodies, begin to understand, for example, if we're playing with a team that plays really high, how that will impact in their physical performance, for example. So that, I think, that is the second focus in our club. But also something that Gergely said before, I think that it is important, and with this new generation of professionals in football, that from each area the people are trying to get data and are trying to implement this new wave of information. So, for example, from my part, I try to analyze the opponent, and also watching games, eventing all the games, but also understanding the numbers behind the opponent. So I can give you a lot of examples from from the professionals. So I can say that is the resources that the club give us, but also how the professionals are looking for that data and to get as most of possible from the data to improve from each area.
That's very important, no? Because at the end of the day, it's not only to have the data, but how to interpret the data, no? And how to make the most of that data is very important, because I imagine, and you kind of sharing this already, no? There's more and more data, more and more metrics. It's more, constantly more. So, which is a good thing if we have the resources and the capacity to process that and to utilize it for the benefit of the club. Otherwise, to just get overwhelmed with it all, and it becomes tricky, no? So I think it's important to that transition between what we've gathered in terms of data and how that can be applied positively and have an impact is very key, no? So one of the things that I want to ask next after we
Pablo, can I add something?
Of course,
here?
absolutely. Yeah.
For example, every team has, but for us, we have like players, 3-4 players with the age of above 30 years old, who know their physical abilities, who played 15 years of football, so they know what's happening. And they are also a generation who was born with mobile phones in their hand, who is like 20 years old. So they are also demanding more data, demanding more video. They are demanding more meetings, more feedback. So it's also, we have to play with this, that some players are not want that much data, that much video, that much feedback. But the younger generations, once they have their phones in their hand every day, so we send them more data on their phones, more videos on their phones. So that's also an aspect which have to take into account.
I can vote for that the older generation doesn't like data because they are used to the freedom they have, and also on the pitch now it's more like this, and the older generation thinks data is killing in a certain way the pureness of football, but you have to see a little bit through that and also embrace a little bit the new world. And it's like you said, you need to, when you see the data, you need to also understand what's behind it. And I think some clubs or a lot of smaller clubs don't know how to do that or see that, because they're not qualified enough to do that. And if you have this, then you can a whole new world go open, and I think then you can have real results with this.
No, that's interesting, no? Because I think I remember hearing Ancelotti in a press conference last year after winning the Champions League, and he was saying something like, I try to give space for the players at Real Madrid to bring their creativity up, because if we just give them maybe every step of what they have to do, you kill it. And I think that's a very interesting point, no? Because I think the data is going to help us. Yes, that's no doubt about that. What we were saying, if we can understand where mostly the penalty shooter is likely to shoot the penalty, that gives us more chances. There's no question about that. But still, I guess as a goalkeeper, for example, your instinct sometimes can be better than anything else in that sense, no? And be like, he's been shooting here and here and here, but we're in the 90 minutes. They're about to win if they score. Maybe he's gonna try now to be shooting in a more safe position for him. So there's a lot of other factors to bring into account, and data can help you, and it does help you. But that I understand that it's more like an old generation thing, of course, but it's important as well. And I think that's key to have a little bit of openness to both. But I think embracing data, whether we like it or not, is a thing that must happen, because it gives you so much as well, no? Right, Kipros?
So this is something that we noticed as well. So from the recruitment side of things and the scouting side, scouts often felt intimidated when it came to data, because they thought that this was going to be the replacement for the live scouting, and they just didn't agree with it. But that's when we had to, first of all, build the scouting team with a diverse manner, so you have like young and old scouts to get the best out of everyone. But then you needed to educate the older scouts and say that the live scouting will still take place, but the data is just there for as a checkpoint, as something to see if what we're saying is true. Because as good as a player is, if he gets injured for 6 months every year, then is it even worth getting him? Probably not. So it goes from as simple as that to anything else. After that, what we also had, just going back to previous points, was before almost 2 years ago, we used to gather all the reports. It used to be just Word documents of every game, a few comments on every player, and then they just got lost in a system. No one actually followed up on them. So we had scouts going out there watching all these games, and then when the time came to see that player and assess him, you had to go through all the Word documents to find all the verdicts. Whereas now it's all in one system, all in one dashboard. You just search the player's name, it comes out straight away. This scout's seen him. This is what he thinks of him. This is the verdict. This is how we move on, and what the next move is, and then you go from there. So it's just making everything really easy for us. From the academy recruitment side, again, when players come in on trial, we always do physical testing. So those numbers, again, are really important, because from the academy side, you need to track the player development. So if a player comes in and is small compared to the other boys in the age groups, and he tests better than everyone else, means he has the physical capability to progress and become one of the best players in the team in the future if you give him some time. Whereas I feel like in older days, the player would have come in and the scouts or anyone, coaches and everyone else would have said he's small enough, he's not good for us. So you dismiss a player just because of his size without actually giving him the chance to prove himself. So I think that's one more thing that data has brought to the game, that like a second view on things. But yeah,
I think that's a good way to put it. No, like, yeah, I think I know personally scouts that are specialized in different competitions, and they keep watching games, and then it's that thing of, okay, I got this list of 10 players that I've been watching in the under-20 Women's World Cup in Colombia that just finished, and now I want to see if the data backs up what my feeling was, no? And sometimes, data might bring to you the fact that you missed out on other players as well, no? So it's that combination of the two that I think is key to make sure the scouting and the recruitment, but also even when you, as you were saying, when you're doing you're checking up players and see if they have potential for the future and stuff like that. It's so much that you can actually guess with the eye, and the data can back it up or no. I remember also speaking to some pro footballers as well, and asking them, and I'm going to ask this to Yannick in a minute, like, have you ever had a game with your feeling of, oh, I play amazing, I really feel that I had a good game and I played great, and then I look at the data, that's the data, is the data backing up that, no? Because then I remember once this particular player from Sevilla, she told me, most of the time, if I have a good feeling about the data, then about my game, the data backs it up. But sometimes it's like, I had a feeling that I wasn't that good, and then you look at the passes completed, many things, it's like, well, actually, it wasn't that bad, no? So quite interesting to think of that, no, Yannick? I don't know if you guys, as goalkeepers, the metrics you have
for goalkeeper is not so difficult, because if you play a good game or a bad game, because you made a fault or you made not a fault. In types of passing, the right decision making, there you can see, okay, this was good, because I worked also with a company who did a video analysis, and they had a lot of images from the game. And then there was a certain moment he said, here you could play. And now you take, in the next phase, you take the difficult decision. And why is that? Because here you were in front and now it's equal. And now you take all the risk to get a goal against. But in the first part, you kick it away when it was an easy ball. So these are things, because you're so in the game, you don't see. I think it's more efficient for a central defender or a central midfielder, defensive midfielder. Like when they come out of the game, they have the feeling, I didn't play well, or this was maybe not good. And then when they see after the game images or statistics that they have, so it's like, oh yeah, it was actually quite okay. And vice versa, of course, because sometimes player thinks I played a good game, and then the coach show images, or the video analyst show images, and then they think, oh no, it was not so really good.
Yeah, and I'm very curious as a goalkeeper, because I think, and we all agree with this, no, that in the recent years, the importance of the goalkeeper with their foot,
It's
and
massive.
it's massive.
It's
It's changed
massive.
completely, right? To the point
Pe-
that if you see throughout the season, many goals are conceived by errors made between the keeper, the central defenders, the right back, the left back, because they know, and they are encouraged and probably forced to play more with the foot. But is this a skill that you've noticed that it's been more enforced in you, that you have to develop over the years?
I When I started goalkeeping, you could take the ball with your hands, and then it developed from playing. But when I was younger, it was just getting the ball back and you kick it long. Now it's really in the last 10,
Yeah.
5 years extremely evolved. I think it's good because it changed the dynamic of the game a lot in a good way. Sometimes for keepers, not in a good way, but that's the risk you have to take. Also, depends on the coach who really wants it. If you make mistakes, he don't care. If you try and try and try, but it's massive. Sometimes I think it's unnecessary, but actually, if you look at it in the big picture, it's better for the sport that the goalkeeper is also involved as an extra player and not only just as the goalkeeper.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
And I think
here we're in the Netherlands, we don't call them goalkeepers, but
Yeah,
goal players.
but that I don't like. A goalkeeper stay a goalkeeper, but I know I hear it because I have good friends who are also goalkeeper in the Netherlands. But yeah,
I know I
that's
heard
how
that one.
you.
That's a good one. A goal player as opposed to a goalkeeper. Yeah. Fair enough. It's the thing. It's yeah. You guys have been more involved, and I think you playing a lot with the with the possibility of fans having a heart attack many times.
Yes.
Because you're so close to the goal, and a bad
Yeah.
control or something. Yeah. So, but very very interesting. Very interesting to see the evolution on that as well, and how football keeps evolving. We think it's always the same and it's always been the same, but no, it changes a lot from that point of view. I wanted to move on to the next bit, where I would like to see if you guys have an example, a successful example of how a particular piece of use of data in your clubs has actually, or if you could tell us a correlation, a clear direct correlation between some sort of work you've done with data and then a successful bit that happened in the pitch, because that's the main thing of the talk, no? From the screen to the pitch. Like, I don't know, we have one of our students in the first edition of the Masters, Marios Antoniadis. He played in Cyprus for many years, and he had to once with Apoel play against Messi and Mark Messi and again, no? And I remember he telling us, all the instructions that the data analysts and the coaches were giving him, no? And it was at the end, they lost, but it was a good game, and Messi didn't have a good game, right? So if you have any successful stories you could tell us, whether it's from academy of a player that you spotted and then this happened and ended up being a top player in the club, from we with goalkeeping, we talked about this player shooting a penalty shooting style, and we managed to save one of the penalty shootouts, or anything that you can add. I'll be good to hear those anecdotes and those examples. Whoever wants to start, let's start from Andres. You're muted, I think.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if it is a success situation, but I can tell you that it helps me a lot because, for example, I don't know if this weekend we play against Malaga.
Okay.
So I have this is the seventh game of the season. Okay, so I have six previous games of Malaga. So in some way, I know what metrics to look to understand how we play. Okay, so I use those metrics to see in which of the 6 games I have to focus more. For example, as you know, you don't know, but in the coaching staff, I am the only analyst. So I have to manage my time to know in what games I can focus to understand and to have an approach of the opponent that is closer to what we can find in our game.
Yeah.
Okay, so in that way, I can choose what games to watch completely, or what games I can just take some situations of the game. So in that way, I can say that data is helping me a lot to understand how to focus and how to manage my time, and I can say that I feel and I can say that I have a good experience with that. Yeah,
And
so
that's the manager, for example, you're facing Malaga in the coming weekend. Important game. You guys are gaining points. I think you won last weekend. Okay, so does the manager, the coach, give you some directions of what kind of information he wants from the opponent team?
yes, for example, I don't know what do you think, for example, how do you think that they're going to press our goal kick, for example? So as I told you before, for example, I'm not going to look for a game that they play directly to the striker. I have to look for a game or a game that they face an opponent that starts to play with their center backs as we
so
play.
they have to press, and they can just look at how they were pressing. Yeah.
In that way, when the coach asks for me, I can give him situations that are closer to what we can do and what we can find in the game.
Yeah.
For example, the assistant coach always asks me, what games do you suggest me to watch? For example, in this case, we have 6 games, but with metrics, obviously I try to look as many games as possible. But I can tell him, well, maybe you can watch this game because the opponent is try or have a lot of possession like us, or have some offensive initiative like us, or make a lot of shots on target as like us. So that give me the possibility and to choose and to manage my time and the time of the coaching staff.
Makes sense. Yeah. No, but it's very interesting, no? Because at the end of the day, exactly, those things are important. And when you have not a lot of games to play, but I guess it's probably harder when you have a lot of games to play, because then you can get lost in so much information. No? So
yeah.
And Kypros, from a scouting academy perspective, any success case that you could share with us?
For me, it's more kind of checking if your instinct is correct, basically. So the players that you watch, if they end up signing, or more like when you're managing the scouting team, and you obviously will have a preference on who you think is the best scout out there. You then look at the players that he brought in, and then you double check if they're right or wrong. In a specific football example, I'll use a goalkeeper, which is now under 21s. So I used to work with him closely during my first year at Forest as an intern, and he was an under 18 at the time. And he was in the gym every morning, came in first, left last from the training ground. Super hard workers, top mentality, technically very good. But the only issue with him was his size. So he was small compared to what he should be for a goalkeeper. And we sat down with the goalkeeping coach. We saw all the Premier League goalkeepers, all the top 5 league goalkeepers, what the average height is, what the shortest goalkeepers were to play in those leagues, and the numbers weren't favoring him. So I stuck with him. He's for me, he's top. For me, he has to have a chance, and he deserves his chance in the game. But it's going to be super frustrating if he doesn't have that chance purely because of his physical aspect, which he can't control. But for now, he's doing really well, and he did make his debut as well for the first team. So it's kind of more of a satisfaction and more of a trusting the data, but then not fully following it, because it's what we said earlier. If we were trusting the data fully, then he would have got released purely because of his size. But if you actually look at the games live and look at the character aspect of it, then you're giving the player a chance. So that's where we need to be, again, a bit careful on how we understand the data and how much value we give to it. But at the end of the day, it is important, because that is a factor that we should consider. If he doesn't make it, that's probably going to be why. So that's one to just keep track on, basically.
But I like what you said at the beginning, how you could see his commitment. He was determined. He was the first one in the gym in the morning and putting that work. That is something that, I guess, when you see it and there is talent, even if in this case his height wasn't there, you see there is something there. So you want to, as a scout as well, you want to make sure he has an opportunity. So I think that's a great story to have shared with us. Thank you so much, Kibros, because it gives you an idea on how so many factors can play, but your role as a scout can also go in that sense. Okay, data is telling me this, but I can see something, and I think he deserves that opportunity. Let's be working on that, and then boom, So thank you for sharing that. Gergerli, tell us a bit more if you have any success story.
I wouldn't say that's my success story, because I'm not the only one who's working with the players, so we do it as a staff. But for example, this summer we sold our youth prospect for a record fee to a Eredivisie club from the Dutch First Division. Mm-hmm. And I was working with him, with all other staff members from under 18, and I was sitting with him weekly about his body positioning, about his hold-up play. And we also sit with teams to show them this kind of situations with Eric Haaland and other types of strikers, so some inspiration. So that was nice to see him developing and then making his next step to a higher level. But maybe my success story was under 21 semi-final cup game against Feyenoord under 21. Yeah, Feyenoord is the only club in the Netherlands whose under 21 team is not playing for the second professional league. So they're playing with under 21 with the youth. So they had a really good squad, and we managed to get 2 penalties. And the day before, I watched all players' Instagram stories where they put. I also mentioned it before. These guys all put everything on Instagram, and they have a highlight button where they score goals. And I saw some penalties there, what they scored, and then we sit with the goalkeeper coach and the goalkeeper, and 4 out of 2 penalties we saved, or the keeper saved, due to my recommendation. So that was an amazing feeling. Unfortunately, we lost the finals with penalties, but that's another story. But that was a really good feeling, and I told the staff and the players that I do this kind of work every day, but this was the moment when I was more in the spotlight, so my work was recognizable
directly. Yeah, exactly.
Because I did it for the previous rounds as well, but we won in a regular time, so it was not needed. Yeah, but it was a nice thing to win like this.
That's amazing. So you actually went to the Instagram of the players to look at that. How interesting, no? Because I think we always think data is gonna come from Opta, Wirescout, this and that, and you never know what can give you an insight.
Yeah, but
I smell espionage. I smell espionage.
Yeah, these players players, so they don't have a lot of data on Wirescout. Some of them who play for the national team, they do, but most guys are not. So that was a nice idea, and then that's why I also said these guys are busy with their phone every minute. So I used it against them.
That's good. That's very good and very smart as well. The way, okay, this is what I have in my hands to play with. Not a lot of data. What can I gather from these guys? And there you go. It was actually having an impact on the actual penalty shootout. So thank you for sharing that. I think that was brilliant. And Yannick, that was a good example of a situation involving goalkeeping.
I think the most success I had was when I was injured from an ACL happening. That I had a good discussion with my coach, with the goalkeeper coach and the second goalkeeper, sorry, and they were talking about my position at the goal, and at a certain moment,
in terms of how to
how I
prevent an
should
injury from
stand.
the future. Okay, there you go.
Also during the game, and then when I came back from my ACL, we had maybe 200 videos during that time when they showed me every day when I was on the club, and then when I came in back from my ACL, everything was on point because I saw it, I could imagine it, and then
Correct your
take it,
position.
in the game. So it was like already a movie that played in my head for so long, for 6 months. And then when I came on the pitch, it was spot on, and that was quite nice because we did it also with the video analyst, and that was really nice.
That's amazing, no? Because
Sorry, can I add again something?
of course.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, we always say as analysts that we train shooting, we train how to head, how to defend, but we also have to train our brain how to react on every situation. So we always tell the players that first you have to know which is the situation around you, then you have to imagine what's the solution, and then you have to execute the solution. So that these 3 steps, and with watching players like top players or professional players can help to with this. So that's also a good thing to train your brain what to do in different situations.
Amazing. Yannick, you were going to say?
No, I completely confirm that, because like a post game, you see images, and actually you have to imagine that during the game, and then you can recognize certain moments in the game, and then you can make the right decisions all the time, when to stay, when to go, these kinds of things, and that makes also a big difference.
That's amazing, no? And especially the case you just shared with us, no? Because I've heard this from other players. I'm thinking about tennis players, no? And how they say that Roger Federer, Rafa Nadal, Djokovic, these guys kept improving their game even when they were at the top, no? Like, okay, there are things that if you change this pattern within your movement, could actually give you an extra advantage in whatever case. In your case, to prevent that injury from coming back and to correct your position, you have to train your brain, train your position, and you need people to help you on that and to bring that into the pitch and bear it in mind and keep course correcting, and very, very interesting. No? Yeah. All right, we got some questions from the students. So if you want, I can ask you the last one myself to just start wrapping up, and then we can give access to some of the questions. My question is very simple, and we can leave it open for everybody to participate here. Data seems to be taking over, and that's present. We already, as having you giving us all these examples, is here to stay. My question to you is to do an exercise of imagination and share with us what you think football and data will look like together in 10 years from now, because the technology is moving so fast that it's hard to imagine. Like, I've been having some talks lately talking about the new wave of neuroscience coming into it and start playing with the brain, and it's scary in a good way, but so much that could be coming. And from your point of view, how do you see data impacting football in the next 10 years? So whoever wants to give it a go can start. Otherwise, just say someone. But yeah, Gary,
I can start.
Go for it.
Yeah, this neurocycle thing, what you also mentioned, can be the big thing. But what I think that we also have to let the players play. What also Yannick mentioned, that 10 years ago, 15 years ago, the players had more freedom to play football. And nowadays we are more developing kind of robots, or just know what to do, where to run. But they have to also have the feeling how to do it, This is the same with the number 10 position. Like Rick Almad, there we cannot see this kind of players anymore on the pitch because of the game changed. So,
and I would say, I think you look into, for example, World Cups, in the history of the World Cup, and those are the players that end up winning it. The difference factor. No?
The individual players win the individual actions who has something extra. But there's also a really nice article on the Athletic from Michael Cox about football data on the pitch. So it's who can access it. It's really nice to read it.
Thank you.
I
Thank you for the recommendation. I definitely will, and I'm sure many of the people watching and listening will. What's the name of the guy who wrote the article in the Athletic?
Michael Cox. It's on the Athletic. You have to have a subscription to read it, so that's why it can be hard. But if someone has it, you should read it.
Amazing. Thank you for that, Early. Andres, tell us your point of view on where you see data evolving in the next 10 years.
Well, I think that maybe the data, the importance of the data is that can give you tools to make good decisions. So as Gergely said before, maybe there is a way that you can give the players that are the main actors of the game these tools in a better way. For example, I don't know. I know that we have business intelligence, but the business intelligence tools are focused more to give like a report to assess some metrics. But I think that in 10 years, we are going to find the way that the player can take this information in an easiest way. So that in a way that is more
easy to digest for them, no?
Easy to them, just to, if I want, because there is also the discussion that we had before. There is some players that demand this information. There are some players that doesn't want to have this information. So I think that maybe in 10 years we can evolve in some tools that can give the player the information in the way that they feel comfortable to have it, because for example, if I give the player a lot of metrics and they say, I don't want it, so maybe I think that in 10 years we can have different tools to make it easier for the players.
I've actually seen a company, I don't remember the name now, who's doing something on that line, kind of like creating a video platform for the players that the analysts kind of like put together things in a way that the players don't have to think too much, just see, and very easy for them to understand the message that the analyst wants to give across to them, no? And it's basically players on their phones looking, okay, this, that, like, in fact, I mean, you guys are students of the masters. Like, I think the next big things will come from people like you, people who are studying, who are passionate about this, and see something that could be improved in an area, and then come up with a company or with an idea that can be solving certain problems here or there. No? So very interesting point of view. Kipros, and now from your academic perspective and scouting, how do you see this going, or where do you see this going?
From an academic perspective, it's only started going towards that cognitive side. So as an academy, we are now looking to dig into the things we can't really see on the pitch. So how the players think, what their perception is, what they see when they're on the pitch. So I think that's going to play a big impact in the world of football going forward. So actually, as many training sessions and as many gym sessions as you do, you never really train that game understanding and that actual expecting what's going to come. So if you do that on the background, then that's going to develop you even more as a player. In terms of where football is heading in general in the 10 years time, I think it's becoming very strategic and very tactical now. It feels a bit like a chess game. So you're going on the pitch and you're expecting what the opposition will do, and then you have your plan A and plan B on how to react with that. So I think that's the way it's going to head. And then at some point, it's going to be so predictive where you will have to have your Riquelmes and your Ronaldinhos, which are going to do something different, just bring that spark into the game and change
Shake
the
it
whole
up.
game.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you can, as Gergely said, you're going to end up having robots on the pitch, and it's just going to end up not being attractive and not being exciting for anyone. So it will reach an end, I think, and then we will go back to that exciting football, that up and down all the time, those really fancy, skillful dribblers, and yeah.
It's good. It's good. It's a good point of view, because I think it's true that data is helping in so many levels. It's key how we use it, not to kill the game, but to enhance the game. No, exactly. I think it's a very, very valid point that we kind of like coming to that conclusion today. No, it's brilliant, but this as well. No? So thank you for sharing that, Kypros, and let's finish with Janet.
Yeah, I think it would depend on how the top teams or clubs or countries are gonna keep finding new ways to involve the data. I think also at a certain point it will stop, because like the two main sports in data, baseball and in some way basketball, has stopped also. There is coming something new, and then you reach the end game, and then we'll go back to basics, because that was the fun part of all the things.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes absolutely sense. And thank you, Yanni, for sharing that, because it's true. I think my personal view is, it's gonna continue to evolve, because I think the key for all of us is to integrate the two of them in a way that both make sense. It's not that data is the best thing. It's not that data is the worst thing. It's actually, in many areas, it actually helps the players and the games to be better. I think is this potentially obsession now with always giving results, always having to be at the top of the game, that makes everybody try to run a race that at some point you're just gonna need the talent as well. No, so but integrating the talent with the data can be the key where the focus goes for the next 10 years. So, okay, we got all this data, but we want to make sure we give the players that creativity and not kill the creativity, and keep the beauty of the game enhanced by the data. No? So, all right, we're gonna give time. By the way, Gregory shared with me the article on the New York Times, and I just posted on the chat, so everyone can access it there. Thank you so much for that. And just one last word, because all of you are guys students of the Masters MSc Data Analytics in Football. I've seen many of you in many of the sessions, and you've been learning with us. Could you give the people watching some words about the Masters and how the Masters has actually helped you in some way with what you do on your daily basis in football? For example, we can start now with Kypros.
For me, the reason I chose the Masters was purely to actually learn some skills, learn the coding languages, learn a bit more on data visualization. Whereas I feel like most Masters, especially like performance analysis Masters with a placement, that will give you an entry point into a football club, but it won't actually teach you many skills. So I found it a bit pointless on doing a Master just to get just a piece of paper at the end of it. So now I feel like I can work on the coding skills that the Masters gave me to put it into my work and see where we can go from here. And I have already started using Tableau much more than I was before, because it's an easier way to make everything look better and make everything much simpler for me going forward. So yeah, really
brilliant. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, one of the focus of our Masters is always not only to teach a theory, because in a way anyone can access the theory, but it's actually to get you to use the skills, to use the tools in a practical way, that if you can put it into practice, if you're already working in football, to put it into practice straight away and enhance what you're doing, or if you're aiming to work in professional football, to have all those tools, no? Not only the knowing, but the tools, no? Andres?
Well, I think that the master gave us some tools to as I was telling before, to understand how we can take advantage of the amount of information that we have.
Yeah.
You know, for example, in my situation, we have a media coach here in La Liga, and there you can find thousands of metrics, information. So I think that with the master, it can help you. For example, the concept of an index, for example. It is important that you can learn how to choose the metrics that you need, on how to choose the way that you want to see the data. So I think that for me is the main learning that I have from this master.
Amazing.
And that helped me in my daily job.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing that, Andres. And yeah, it's one of the things we talked about before, no? Like how we can be overwhelmed with so much data, and if we get to understand and learn where to look at, it's very important, no? Gergerly, tell us how the Masters is impacting you positively in what you do on a daily basis at the club.
As a video analyst, I was mainly focused on the video technical part of the game, but now I can back up the video, or I can back up the data with some videos. It's like vice versa. So I can use both to help out and make a clearer impact on the game. How do I present to the players? How do I present with to the staff? So, and you can learn from, it's really a practical master. So you can learn from professionals, from the best teams, best leagues. So it's also really, you want to also get there where these guys are working, who gives you lessons and who can get in touch. So it's also a really good networking opportunity as well, which is also really important nowadays in football.
Exactly.
Everywhere.
To have those people, to pick their brains, to get to know how they work, and to get to know them, because I think in football everyone is interconnected in some way, you know, and it's important to get to know people in the industry as well. And I think that's something that you can have with the masters as well. Thank you, Gagarly. And Yannick, just a couple of words. I know the reason why you enroll in the master in the first place is because, correct me if I'm wrong, your main goal goes on potentially becoming a sports director.
Yes.
Has the masters helped you, and how the masters has helped you to understand data more and all this in the journey you have?
Yes, that it's really important to have a basic knowledge of how data is being used. But for me, the most nicest part about the course was that the different types of how, like I said in the beginning, in Spain they work like this, in England they work like this. And this was very interesting because I only played in Belgium. We know a little bit how in Netherlands they work. It's similar as ours, but not like in France or in Italy or in England or in Spain. So that was really nice for me to see and to hear also from a lot of big names in the football, like Victor Orta. In the first class we had, he was there. With the cell phone on the pitch, he signed a new coach. So that gives so much insight on what's really going on and how you can use data also during the course to the end product.
Yeah. Thank you. No, it's true. I think I remember that session with Victor Horta. They just literally, he was late on the session because they were literally signing the new Sevilla FC coach at the time. So yeah, exactly. The idea is to bring those people, and it's good what you're mentioning of how every country works in the same way, and having the perspective on how everyone works, I think it gives you more openness to what to expect and what to bring to your own career and your future as well. No? Thank you guys so much. There is a few questions. So I know I have to speak to Sarsak, who's mentioning something about enrolling in the Masters, absolutely. But we're going to go with Sunday first. He's got two questions, quite interesting. The first one is there. First question, how can you predict that a player from a lower league can become a key player of a top club league within 2-3 years? Anyone who wants to answer the question, because it's quite open and I think you guys can all bring something good to this answer. So yeah, anyone who wants to answer that question?
I can start. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, go. For me, it's I don't think there's a definite answer. You will never really know for sure. Obviously, the younger the player is, the better, because if you put him in a good environment and work on the things that he has to work on, then you will make him a better player. Where he ends up is completely random at times. So if he manages to get a good move into a better club and you monitor his development, then it's kind of like a graph basically. If it goes up, it's going to keep going up. There's some players where reach rock bottom and then just find the fighting spirit and stand up and go again and manage to go into the higher level and be very successful. So with those ones, it's you just made the wrong decision. You have to acknowledge that you made the wrong call and just wish good luck and fair play to the player. But yeah.
Thank you for that, Kypros. I think Gagali, was it you that were
Yes. I think if a player has a unique skill, for example, really good on 1v1 or really good in air duels or can run 14 kilometers per game, then he has something extra that he has to develop more and more, but he also has to be decent in all aspects of the game. So if there's a player who is decent in some aspect of the game or some skills, then yeah, maybe he's not playing in a lower league at that moment, but I think that's something you can build up, and you need a lot of luck. And I think you have to be injury prone and you have to be there mentally as well, because football is a really demanding word.
Yeah. I think also I've been working with some clubs, with some students in some projects, and something you could potentially do is, okay, if you look into a player, what we were talking, a player that is where you want a player to be now, and look at the data of that player 2 or 3 years from ago, even if he was a lower division, look at the data and compare that data of that player from 2 or 3 years ago with a current data of a player that you think could be good in this league in 2 years from now, 3 years from now. Using like similarity algorithms or things like that, where you can actually compare data from different players from different times in different seasons as well. Okay, and the second question from Sunday is there, this is a very interesting one actually, is there any possibility to have data on chemistry between players? Which players can be good with some type of players, languages, behavior? Quite interesting, especially in class where you have people from different countries, different backgrounds, different potentially different cultures as well, or religions. I don't know if anyone wants to go for this one.
If I can speak from the dressing room,
yes.
I'm in. So we have some guys that we screen mentally, how they are in a group, how they are individually. And then we talk about it at the beginning of the season. Everybody gets a schedule. Everybody likes to show theirs to others. And then you have a kind of imaginary thing like, okay, with this guy, we have to work like this. And with the other guy, we have to work like this. And then along the time, we are connecting. But I think also it depends on the person you are. Good players always want to play with good players. They find each other on the pitch more easier, and then there is more chemistry than with others. I think it's the same with defenders and goalkeepers. We speak more to each other because we are always one unit. I think that it's not really something you can look for in data, I think. Or maybe I'm wrong, but for me, that's something only by mental screening and then looking if the player is fitting in the club. And so it's not a match. And if yes, better.
Absolutely. I think I remember Victor Horta mentioning something about this. No, when you are about to sign a player for your club, obviously you've been looking at all the elements that he can bring to the game to fit in the squad, but then you have to look into his personal life and his personality, because if it's, if it's going to be a clash, maybe you don't want that. No, for example, I'm a Real Madrid fan, and I remember many years as a Real Madrid fan that the team was kind of winning, but you could tell there were many egos in the changing room, no, and that's not easy sometimes. It could be detrimental. And for example, this year, apparently in the last 2 years, Real Madrid players have become very, very good friends. And then Mbappe is coming now. Is he gonna fit? Is he gonna deserve that? Because it's top player in the world. They seem to get along, but all those factors are important. And I think in your case, talking from a footballer perspective and how you guys at the beginning of the season talk about these things, but also for your future as a sports director to looking into these things is important. I remember also Victor saying something like, okay, we also want to sign a player and put everything around him in a way that he feels comfortable and stress-free. Like, for example, I don't know, if he comes from another country and he has 2 dogs that he loves, how are we going to make sure the dogs come safely to this country? And, silly things that are important. And what's the situation in his family, with his children, with his wife, all these things, to make sure that all those things play a part and the players are feeling good. They don't have a lot of stress beyond closed doors, no? And I think all these things also play a part, but it's obviously hard to measure. We conclude. Thank you, guys. I don't know if anyone has anything else to add, but feel free to do so.
Maybe I want to add something
Yeah.
about the game perspective. Maybe, I don't know, you can use tools focusing more in performance. Maybe passing networks can give you some clues of what type of player you feel more comfortable to play in, what kind of system or structures, game model. I think maybe you can, but also, as you said before, there is some different elements and some psychological, cultural, a lot of aspects that you have to take into account. But in the game, maybe you can have these tools that can give you some clues of what type of players a player can feel more comfortable to play with.
Absolutely. And it's Yannick was saying, how I used to play as a defender as well, and how you feel quite close to your mates. It's like that unit with the goalkeeper. No, it's like you tend to, in the pitch, talk more. You're a central defender. You constant communication with your other central defender. No, constant communication. And same with the left back and right back. And that creates kind of like a feeling of belonging with them, to a team within the team. No, same as those talented players in the midfield and perhaps attacking. They find each other all the time, and they have that chemistry, that creates dynamics within the club, and within the team, and those are very important from managers, coaches, analysts, to bring them into account when we are designing the plays, etc. Very interesting. Last question. Absolutely.
Sorry again. It's also like what kind of players you have in different positions, because there are some coaches who like older players, experienced players in the center of the field, so like a goalkeeper, a central midfielder, or number 6, who can also stimulate the younger guys next to them, just because the lower you play on the field, the more vision you have, and so more you can coach the players. Also on the wing, you have a humble player who will do 1-against-1 every time. Doesn't matter if he got a kick 10 out of 10, he will do it for the next time as well. But also a striker, you need a calm striker who misses one chance, but mentally is ready to score a minute later. So it's like type of players you have. but also the coaching stuff. You have to put players where they feel comfortable with, and also hide their weaknesses during the game. So if you have a player who is not good in defending, you should also try to play with this, or not good with duels, so this kind of thing. So it's also on the players, but also on the coaching stuff, in my opinion.
Yeah. Absolutely, and I think that's very important. I remember back in the day when I was playing, in low categories in Spain. You have a player that plays your position. You wanna obviously be in the start 11, and you have that kind of rivalry as well with I used to be a left back. No, the rivalry with the other left back is like, who's it gonna be? It's gonna be me. It's gonna be you. Brilliant. And the last question is from Sapap, and he says it's more like an open question, to be honest, not so concrete. He says, what are the most important elements that a football analyst should have? Obviously, we talked about a lot in this session today, but I don't know if you guys want to say something. I don't know, understanding of the game, using of the tools, programming is something important that analysts nobody can go without. I don't know what you guys think. If anyone wants to add something to this question, especially the analysts.
Well, I can say that in the role of analyst, you have to be flexible to understand, because you are like the customer service in the coaching stuff, So if the coach needs some pattern in the opponent, so you have to give him that. If the goalkeeper coach asks you for how they make crosses to the area, so you have to. So in that way, I think that is the most important value characteristic that you have to be an analyst. So you have to be flexible, and you have to find a way to fulfill the requirements from the coaching staff and also from the players, because there is some players that are asking you and are demanding you information, videos, situation that they can face in the weekend. So I think that's the most important thing.
That's a very interesting point. Exactly. You are actually in touch with a lot of different people within the club, and you're going to be demanding a lot of things from them. No? So I think that's a very good way to put it. Yeah, brilliant. Thank you, Andres, for that. I don't know if you guys want to add anything else on that question. Perfect.
Yeah, you should maybe you should have eye-full details, because you should get the data or the play principles, what's really in the game, not only appearing once in a game, but which is coming back during the game. So you have to understand the game, understand the data, and pick out which is really important, and which is really hard, because you don't know which is going to be the decisive one, but you should also have the feeling to pick the right one. So it's like a really combinative role, I guess.
That's good. And I will add actually that it will also depend on the club, because as we talked before at the beginning, like every club is different. It's a whole world in itself. Data is still here, but it's still coming. Not every club works with data the same way. So you might be in a club that integrates you with the staff, the technical staff, and you're part of them, and you work very closely with the manager. Other clubs where you are that guy weird with the computer in one department, and you're not in touch with anybody, and you're in your bubble, and you have to pretty much every time you speak to anyone, convince them that what you're doing is actually valuable. So I guess obviously it still depends in many ways in what environment you see yourself at when you're working as an analyst. But what you guys mentioned was very, very good insights there. Okay, we don't have any more questions there. So what I got left to say is, first of all, and most importantly, to thank you both, all of you guys, for your time, for your willingness to be in this session, your participation, your great information and insights you share with us. It's very valuable. And I wanted to thank you personally for that, because you made this session a nice session, made it possible. Yeah, it's been, I had a great time doing it, and it was thanks to you. So thank you guys so much for being here. I appreciate it. I'm sure all the viewers are also appreciating you guys sharing everything you share with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure.
And for anyone watching, thank you for watching. If you couldn't make it, obviously you have the replay to watch. Guys, I'll share the link with you, with the speakers tomorrow, so you can actually have the session as well yourselves for your use. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for watching. I wish you an amazing evening, and I hope to see you guys in other sessions, and to keep collaborating and doing things together, and keep enjoying the Masters. And thank you so much for you and for everyone watching, and good evening everyone.
Thank you, Pablo.
Bye.
Bye bye guys. Have a good one. Thank you everybody.
Thank you.